Today I'll share the legend behind the being that inspired the new Black Myth game, which, unlike the monkey game, won't feature the monkey. But there's ZHONG KUI, who would very likely hunt the monkey. In the game trailer, we end up seeing two men there who are hiding from ZHONG KUI, who was riding on top of a gigantic tiger. He's extremely stylish. It's hard for anyone to beat his style. But next to him are two monsters. One of them even has a red mask with horns and everything, which reminds me of the Onus from Japanese mythology. And even though the game is based on Chinese mythology, China and Japan end up sharing a lot of myths and everything. So it's fine for them to use the Onis, but these monsters are right beside him. Because basically ZHONG KUI's job is simply to slap ghosts and demons in the face. He hunts them. His title is Demon Hunter, actually. More precisely, his title should be Ghost Hunter. But Ghost Hunter reminds me of this here, and Demon Hunter reminds me of this here. And as people say nowadays, Demon Hunter has more aura. I'll keep that title. I think it's the same in China, Japan, and the East. In general, if you were a really awesome guy during your life, your chances of becoming a deity are higher. And since ZHONG KUI ended up hunting chupacabras, but in Chinese, he ends up being worshipped as a protective deity as well. People even display his image outside homes and businesses to ward off the demon. By the way, if you want ZHONG KUI's help, don't forget to like, subscribe to Mythology, and hype up the video too, because it helps me a lot. To learn more about Chinese mythology, check the pinned comment. ZHONG KUI is a unique figure in Chinese mythology. Although he is famous, what sets him apart from other legendary figures is that he is a ghost, not a human. He gained his powers after death, and his main activity as a ghost is to hunt other ghosts or monsters, demons, and so on. Any supernatural creature that can harm someone. ZHONG KUI is allowed to give them a beating. His portfolio goes pretty far. He promotes good, repels evil and epidemics, wards off ghosts, and protects the world. In short, that's a good summary. His role is to bring peace. Although he is a ghost, he is often viewed as a god. Of course, he has many human emotions and also many human desires, and this combination of things makes him very unique in all of Chinese mythology. The legend of ZHONG KUI still circulates in some mainland coastal provinces. ZHONG KUI opera is still very popular and active on opera stages in mainland China and Taiwan. ZHONG KUI dances in Taiwan are also performed during sacrificial occasions. Like, what does this passage say here? In the first month of the year, the Apale Festival is in full bloom and everything is just right. The spring dragon wants to fly to the sea, and the second ending is a prayer. Currently, King is as blessed as a mountain with a prosperous family and a glorious home. Tonight, the new festival or ceremony will be held, and the dragons and phoenix of the 9 heavens will fly. The 5 generals came in person. The department led 100,000 bears. The clothes also led a copper head and an iron forehead. The complete soul of the body always wore leopard skin. The imperial decree that dyed the cinnabar red, Iziame called ZHONG KUI, rounded up the floating ghosts and swept through 3 counties. Learn from the celebration of Langbukai, except to respectfully ask the palace for worship. The ZHONG KUI. Its origin isn't very clear, but since it's a Chinese legend, it must be an extremely old legend. As old as Gabriel's mother's mischief, and like most ancient things, its origin is unclear, though we have some theories. According to one of them, the name of the god who catches ghosts comes from a tool with the same name, which was used to exorcise demons, Shannara, circa 1600 before Christ. which would be a mask that ended up scaring away demons. Probably a mask so ugly that not even a demon could look straight at it. The whole mask thing actually reminded me of Demon Slayer during Tanjiro's early training. His master gives him a mask, and the master also wore one said to scare away Onis, which are demons, right? Well, later on, that mask ended up evolving into the hammer. But another theory says that this name didn't actually come from any tool. No, but actually it came from a mushroom. Yes, from a mushroom, but not this one. It didn't give the person the ability to see demons, but actually it was the opposite. It scared demons away. This theory may be due to a malaria outbreak or similar disease that likely occurred in China at some point. Mushrooms were used as medicine because people believed diseases were caused by plague demons. So the mushroom gained a reputation for scaring demons away. This would have become ZHONG KUI. But there is still a third theory which says that the name didn't come from any mushroom or any weapon, but actually from a person. That makes sense, since in China and Japan, people and historical figures often become myths too. According to this theory, actually ZHONG KUI's name would be Yao Zuan, who was an ancient governor that ruled over North Weidong. And at that time, scholars would end up receiving a title, which was a title of sage, that they called Zi. The governor's Zi was Bazi, which roughly translates to ward off evil spirits. This emperor gained a reputation as a demon banisher and exorcist, becoming part of Chinese mythology and supposedly turning into ZHONG KUI. Yeah, you might be thinking that ZHONG KUI would basically be like a Winchester guy, but instead of going around hunting evil spirits in a car, he did it using a tiger, and he was also a ghost. But no, I'd say he's actually a lot more like Spider-Man than Winchester. I know what I just said sounds crazy, but you'll agree with me, you'll see. According to what they say, ZHONG KUI had his origin stories back in the Tang Dynasty, and he was a nerd. And in the imperial exams, he did really well and got high scores. He was a genius. But there was a problem. As the universal law states, nothing can be left for the beta, and this case is no exception. ZHONG KUI was very smart, yes, but according to the stories, he tended to be very ugly. When I say very ugly, I don't mean just a little. Imagine someone ugly right now. Then you take a door, slam it on their face 3 times, then kick them 3 times. So, what do you think? After that, maybe they'd almost reach ZHONG KUI's ugliness. I'm not exaggerating. The stories I read say he was scarily ugly. And for the word scarily to be there, it means things were really tough for our dear hunter here. This was so true that once ZHONG KUI went on a trip with a friend from his hometown whose name was Dupin. This trip was to the capital, Shenyang, and the whole way, ZHONG KUI was extremely happy because he would arrive at the capital, enter the palace, and take the imperial exams. He believed in his potential, and when he arrived, he was so excited, he took a long walk. Streets. He found a fortune teller who told him he should give up on the exams because something terrible would happen in the end, but Zhong ended up telling that fortune teller to go eat a cassava and left. So they took the exams, and in fact, ZHONG KUI did very well and stood out among everyone there, and he earned the title of Zhongguian, which was a distinguished title there. When the evaluators saw our warrior's worn-out look, they called the emperor who, after seeing ZHONG KUI, stripped him of his title. Up to now, the situation was somewhat like Peter Parker's, as I mentioned. Both were smart nerds and not attractive. He was especially ugly. Both were humiliated, and so on. From now on, the story changes completely because Peter was bitten by a spider and gained powers and confidence. ZHONG KUI really got screwed in this story for taking on the Saiba Mean, if you know what I mean. He decided to do that by jumping several times against the palace gate. His friend, Dupin, tried to stop him but failed and ultimately buried ZHONG KUI. When he arrived at Zhu, the underworld in Chinese mythology, Yan Luan, the judge of the dead, received him. And he laughed a lot when he learned why the boy ended up there, right? He saw a lot of potential in the kid, noticing his intelligence and brilliance, and that he had been condemned to Zhu simply because in the end, he ended up choosing his own path. He earned the title King of Ghosts through Yan Luan and was tasked with hunting, capturing, controlling, and disciplining various ghosts and demons. And after he earned this title of King of Ghosts of the Underworld, ZHONG KUI went back to his hometown on New Year's Eve to thank his friend Dupin for treating him well during his life and even after his death. ZHONG KUI even married his younger sister to Dupin. There's another story as well that tells about ZHONG KUI and also takes place during the Tang Dynasty. According to legend, an emperor named Xuanzong was seriously ill and kept dreaming about ghosts. The story says he was sick, but I think he was actually terrified by the dreams. He wasn't sick, but still, in a certain dream, according to the legend, a little ghost appeared and stole the flute and a purse from the emperor's wife, right? Who was Yang Guifei? Then, the bigger ghost appeared wearing an official hat and caught the smaller ghost, gouged out its eyes, and devoured it. At that moment, this ghost turned to the emperor, introduced himself as ZHONG KUI, and promised to rid the empire of all evil. That was the emperor, of course. He woke up from the dream, suddenly cured, and believed it was a sign from the gods. He immediately then hired a court painter to produce a portrait of ZHONG KUI. The emperor used this portrait to pay homage to the god and showed great confidence in him, even to his officials. Because of this, even though the portrait was lost, it greatly influenced depictions of the demon slayer in Chinese art and literature. If you've watched the video up to this point, don't forget to leave a like, subscribe to the channel, and share it as well, because it helps me a lot, okay? See you next time.